Welcome to Dateline Polk with news about your county government. I'm your host, Leanne Thomas. Today, you'll learn about County Commissioners' actions from the June 3rd meeting. The board approved a consultant services authorization with Chastain Skillman Incorporated for professional engineering services to prepare a supervisory control and data acquisition master plan, also known as SCADA, affectionately known, for potable water, wastewater, and reclaimed water facilities. Costs are not to exceed $196,500.
The board this morning approved a plan to develop a SCADA master plan. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. That is a control system that utilities use to monitor data, system data, pressures, turn valves on and off. This particular plan will cover our 6 service areas across the 2,000 square miles that we serve. The plan will help us continue to standardize and to optimize our operations. It has allowed us to save money and reduce the requirements for staffing as well as emergency response, because it makes the system far more stable and able to respond to different situations.
The board approved Fire Rescue's request to apply for FEMA's Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, also known as SAFER. If awarded this grant, the Fire Rescue Division would hire 9 full-time positions to staff a proposed new fire station in the Marion Creek area of Point Siena. The FEMA grant will pay 100% of all staffing costs for a 2-year period, after which the Board of County Commissioners will assume all related recurring staffing costs. Costs are estimated at $800,000 annually. Related capital and operating expenses required for construction and upkeep of the facility would be separate from any grant funding.
Well, today we went before the Board of County Commissioners to seek approval to apply for a grant called the SAFER grant, which stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. This federal grant will allow us to hire 9 firefighters for a proposed fire station in the Point Siena Village 7 area. We're calling it the Lake Marion Creek Fire Station. If successful, that grant will provide funding for 2 years, and then after that, the Board of County Commissioners, through our budget, will be responsible for carrying on the salaries of those firefighters. After discussion with the board and some input from the residents, the County Commissioners approved our request to apply for that grant. So when it opens up here in the near future, Polk County Fire Rescue will make that grant application, and we'll wait to hear from the FEMA on our acceptance. Once we get accepted, we'll move forward with accepting the grant, receiving the funds, and hiring the firefighters, and putting something up there at least temporarily until we can get a permanent station constructed.
The board approved an interlocal agreement with the Workforce Development Board through 2016 and the Workforce Development Board's fiscal year 2014-2015 preliminary budget. Since 1996, the Workforce Development Board has operated under an interlocal agreement providing policy, fiscal, and program guidance for all workforce development activities under federal, state, or local initiatives. The interlocal agreement is periodically reviewed and updated to reflect accurate legal and statutory references and to make other technical corrections that may be required.
Today we were here before the commissioners to get our preliminary budget approved for program year 2014-2015.
The board also approved the tax collector's loan request for $1.1 million to complete the North Ridge Tax Collector Service Center. They also approved a transfer from the General Fund Reserve for budget stabilization. Repayment of the loan to the General Fund will be included as part of the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget process. In other news, Lori Edwards, Polk County Supervisor of Elections, recognized Sharon Mathis from the Equal Opportunity Office for her outstanding service to the Supervisor of Elections.
Was to recognize county employee Sharon Mathis. Sharon has been a county employee for 29 years, and she's been a poll worker in our election office for 12 years. And Sharon has just been an outstanding, strong worker, has really done a great job for the voters, so we wanted to see that she gets some recognition.
I was here this morning. I'm the supervisor of election. I'm a precinct clerk, but I was sent to a bad precinct or a conflict precinct in Haines City, and they was honoring me for bringing calm in the midst of a storm. It was very, very difficult, but dealing with people, it was very easy. So they gave it to me because I had to drive 100 miles round trip, had to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and had to have a 22-hour day, but it all came out to a good end, and it was no problems.
Lori also discussed a proposed precinct adjustment involving precincts 110 and 111 to improve voter convenience.
We asked the Board of County Commissioner to approve a small change to our precinct layout. This is in North Lakeland. It's precincts 310 and 311. There's about 300 voters that we moved from precinct 310 to 311, and the reason we did that was we lost use of a polling location. When we did and we found another one, if we did not move these voters, they would be driving by one polling location to get to another, and we just didn't think that was good customer service.
The board approved the appointment of Sandra O'Neill Wiley, Sherry D. Sapp, and John K. Small, and the reappointment of Richard Bryant, David Sorg, Julia Himmelbrock, and Albert Miller to the Workforce Development Board, each for 3-year terms effective June 3rd, 2014.
We also presented some new appointments to our board of directors and reappointments to our board of directors for the program year 2014-2015.
The board approved the reappointment of Thomas Addison and J. Michael Nelson, Sr., to the Northridge Community Redevelopment Agency, each for 3-year terms effective June 28, 2014. During afternoon public hearings, the board adopted a resolution to vacate a platted right-of-way known as Timbers Drive near Fort Meade and simultaneously authorize conveyance of the county's interest in the road to Timbers North Property Owners Association, Incorporated. The board also adopted a resolution to vacate the maintained right-of-way from Clay Road, Berkeley Road to Denton Road and portions of Edwards Avenue in Auburndale. The board approved a request for a future land use change on more than 15 acres located north of the Poinciana Parkway and south of St. Cloud Road in Haines City. This changes the site from pre-DRI to institutional use within planned unit development. The board also approved a request for a future land use change on more than 54 acres located north of Interstate 4 and south of Bella Vista Street in Lakeland. This changes the site from residential low to agricultural, residential, rural use. And finally, they approved a request for a future land use change on approximately 251 acres located south of Highway 542 East, north of the Polk Parkway, and east of Lasso Lane in Lakeland. This changes the site from residential low, agricultural, residential, rural, and business park center to industrial use. Now, let's go to R.J. Walters from the Polk Transportation Planning Organization with the roads update.
Today, we're not going to focus on the roadways or highways, but take a closer look at the preferred pathways of happy feet and shiny handlebars everywhere. On May 22nd, the Polk Transportation Planning Organization, TPO for short, hosted a community forum on multi-use trails at Cleveland Heights Golf Course in Lakeland. The TPO has helped allocate more than $13 million in local, state, and federal funds to trails over the last 10 years, and the discussion at the forum is proof that that number is expected to balloon quickly. Nearly 60 people attended the event, and another 70 plus watched the event on polktpo.com from their choice of comfortable confines. TPO staff also engaged with people and answered questions about the trail network on Twitter. Ryan Kordek, the TPO's Transportation Planning Administrator, took the audience through the narrative of how we got from just 4.5 miles of paved multi-use trails 25 years ago to more than 300 miles today, while unveiling some exciting new plans for the future. One of those plans is what is tentatively being called the proposed Central Polk Loop system, which will include a 25, 50, and 75-mile loop. The system would connect existing trails to proposed trails and stretch from Lakeland to Bartow to Lake Wales to Haines City. These proposed loops have various gaps covering more than 100 miles at this point, but more than 50 of those miles are already under study to be implemented into the trail network. Chuck Barmby from the City of Lakeland also spoke at the forum, highlighting how pedestrians and bicyclists are at the forefront of its roads and trail planning efforts. The city is working to implement more bike parking and make existing roads safer for bicyclists and pedestrians by adding more sidewalks, bike lanes, and paved shoulders. The Lake-to-Lake Greenway connector is also being perfected, and eventually the city would like to see Tenor Rock Trail connect all the way to the Fort Fraser Trail. And yes, for those of you wondering, the TPO and the City of Lakeland both are proponents of engineering a solution to getting people from the Fort Fraser Trail over or under the Polk Parkway and into downtown Lakeland. All I can say for now is stay tuned. While the public got the lowdown on what's coming next in the County Trail Network, the real value of the forum hosted by the TPO's Advisor Network was the feedback that the TPO got back. Through Twitter, suggestions, and comment cards, the TPO received 80 public comments that will help guide future planning efforts across the trail network. Several ideas rose to the top by the end of the evening as an indication of what's most important to the public. The consensus is that the safety and security of existing trails needs to be increased, including the installation of emergency call boxes throughout the network. People would also like to see more trees planted along the trails to provide shade for bicyclists and pedestrians. I'm sure Polk's Natural Resource Division and Parks and Rec Department would echo that sentiment. Amenities trail users would like to see more of that aren't necessarily the color green include restrooms, dog waste receptacles, covered rest stops, and drinking fountains. A few public comments that were a bit unique from the messages the TPO usually receives from its public involvement Magic 8 Ball included that the City of Lakeland should invest in better safety lights that it distributes as part of its safety and awareness program because they don't last long. The TPO could increase driver awareness by hosting a public education event in the bike lane of County Road 540A. And one person suggested that there could be a public transit route dedicated to circling key points on the trail network to better integrate the bus system and commuters or recreation enthusiasts. The TPO warmly thanks all who participated in the event and made it a success. If you were unable to attend, we'd still like to hear your thoughts on what you enjoy about Polk County's multi-use trail network and what improvements you'd like to see made. You can join the conversation about trails, roadways, and transit by liking the Polk TPO on Facebook or following us on Twitter. You can also sign up to be part of our advisor network by giving us a call at 863-534-6709. Check out our social media and polktpo.com to watch a replay of the forum, which was broadcast by PGTV. While I encourage you to get out and experience Polk's trails, whether by horse, rollerblade, or Segway, I understand most of you spend the majority of your week staring at your speedometer and change oil light. Here are a few notable construction updates to be on the lookout for around Polk County. The southbound lane of US 98 will be closed in the evening hours at Skinner Street while crews install a sewer line. Also on US 98, you might see crews working diligently at the Lakeland Central Park Center where a southbound left turn lane is being added and the sidewalk is being modified. There will be intermittent southbound lane closures at night until the project is complete. In Fort Meade, the already tight corridors of the bridge over the Peace River along US 98 will be even tighter from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. as crews repair deck joints on the bridge. And finally, there continues to be traffic halting construction along US 27. From Ritchie Road to south of Berry Road, a traffic shift is in place north of I-4 on northbound US 27. And from Berry Road to US 192, nighttime detours will be required as crews set bridge beams through the end of the week. The detours are as follows. The US 27 southbound ramp is closed to traffic traveling from westbound US 192. Detour signs direct westbound traffic to travel north on US 27, then make a U-turn at Kagan Crossings Boulevard, then travel south on US 27. The US 192 eastbound ramp is closed to traffic traveling from southbound US 27. Detour signs direct southbound traffic to travel south on US 27, then make a U-turn at Polo Park Boulevard, then travel north on US 27, then exit to eastbound US 192. Obviously, be on the lookout if you're on US 27. That's the highlights of the Orange Barrel Parade right now. And for emergency road closures and updates, please follow the Polk TPO on Twitter or join us on Facebook. With information and updates on the planning that moves Polk, I'm RJ Walters.
To keep current with programs in progress in the county, visit us online at polk-county.net or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We encourage you to join us at the next scheduled board meeting at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 17th. Thank you for watching this edition of Dateline Polk.